All right, another really great way to use live paint is to color freeform artwork. And so here we are looking at that uniform stroke tracing that I made back in chapter 16. And let's say I want to fill it in order to create this full color effect right here. Well, live paint is perfectly suited to this purpose because after all, we're not trying to fill in a bunch of neat and tidy path outlines. Instead, we're trying to color the artwork based on its appearance. And to make my point clear, I'll go ahead and switch over to the unfilled version of the artwork, and I'll click on any one of the path outlines to select everything inside this artwork. And so, as you can see, if I go ahead and twirl open this tracing layer, it contains one and only one static group. I've gone ahead and deleted the live tracing object from this artwork because that way it'll open more quickly for those of you who have access to this file. All right, now let's say I want to primarily fill the art with a light shade of orange. I'll go up to the first swatch up here on the far left side of the control panel. I'll click on it and I'll select this shade of orange that begins R equals 251. And you can see that makes an absolute mess of everything. And that's because we have a ton of open path outlines, which means that Illustrator goes ahead and clips the fills between the endpoints. Now that is not remotely what we want, so I'll just go ahead and press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that fill, and instead I'll go ahead and select the Live Paint bucket from this flyout menu, or I can press that keyboard shortcut of K. And now I'll make sure my Swatches panel is open, and of course I can make that happen by choosing the Swatches command from the Window menu. Make sure your fill is active as well, and then select that same shade of orange that begins R equals 251. And now, if I were to click inside my artwork, I would go ahead and fill in this guy's face without filling anything outside of this virtual region. All right, now that you've converted this item into a live paint object, and you can confirm that's the case here inside the Layers panel, go ahead and twirl open your group, and you'll see that instead of a bunch of static path outlines, you have your live paint object. And so what I suggest you do is just drag it out of the group like so, at which point the group will disappear. All right, so as I was saying, because you have a live paint object, you no longer have to have it selected. So press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac to deselect your artwork. And then just go ahead and click in these regions right here. And notice as you click, it's not the tip of that paint bucket cursor that's hot. It's the tip of the tiny little arrowhead. And what that means is you want to click with the arrowhead in order to fill, or to make things a little less tedious, you can actually click and drag inside these regions. And when I say drag, you're not creating a marquee, you're dragging freeform. All right, now I also want the face of the sun to be orange, but notice if I click inside of him, I end up filling a couple of his teeth as well. And I'll show you how we're going to solve that problem in the next movie. But for now, just go ahead and press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that fill. And then drag all over his hand like so. And you can be pretty sloppy about it, because after all, there's nothing to fill outside of the hand over here. And so if you just drag around a little bit, you should be able to get everything filled pretty quickly. And then go ahead and drag inside this other hand. But notice as soon as I click out in this region, I'll end up filling in his entire shirt. Again, that's something we'll reconcile in the next movie. But for now, don't worry about it. I'll just go ahead and drag up these fingers to fill them. And now I need to drag across this great network of tentacles right here. And I'll go ahead and click and drag across these guys. And because there's nothing to fill outside here, notice if I click, nothing happens. Except that I get this helpful little tutorial here, which you're not going to need because I'm explaining all in these videos. So I'll just go ahead and click OK. And then I'll just click and drag inside these little areas. Notice I don't get anywhere if I click inside these little nodules. So for now, I'll go ahead and ignore them. And I might as well turn on Don't Show again because I don't want to see that guy. And I'll click OK. And now I'll just go ahead and drag over here. Here's another thing that I can't fill in. Here's another thing that I can. And so having done as much work as I can at this point, I'll press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac to zoom out. All right, so those are the basics of coloring in line art, whether created using the Live Paint function or something like the pencil tool. In the next movie, I'll introduce you to Illustrator's automatic gap detection.